The huge meeting room was full of strange sounds and voices. 12 different alien species sat around a giant floating picture that showed spaceships from all their worlds. Commander Tae-min from Earth stood quietly near the wall. His old face showed no feelings as the aliens made fun of humans and their new warship. The floating picture showed the human ship called HSF Determination. It looked small and weak next to the huge alien battleships. The ship had smooth lines and seemed almost delicate compared to the massive war machines from other worlds. Ambassador Vextar was a tall creature with green, scaly skin like a lizard. He pointed at the human ship and made ugly faces. His voice was loud and mean when he talked. "Look at this tiny ship the humans brought us. They call this thing a warship. My people use bigger ships just to carry garbage around the galaxy. This human ship looks like a toy that children would play with, all faux." The other aliens started laughing at Vextar's words. Their laughter was strange and scary. Some made clicking sounds with their mouths. Others made deep growling noises. The sound filled the whole meeting room and echoed off the walls. General Korth belonged to a race that looked like giant insects. He had big bug eyes and mouth parts that clicked together when he talked. His species was called the Clicktar, and they were known for being mean fighters. The humans must have made a mistake when they built this ship. Maybe they thought they were making a mining ship to dig rocks from asteroids. This pathetic ship could not even scratch the paint on our war beetles. Our smallest fighters are stronger than this human joke. More alien voices joined in making fun of the human ship. A creature with purple tentacles waved them around as it spoke. Another alien that looked like a walking tree made deep rumbling, sounds that meant it was laughing too. Captain Jiwoo was the young woman chosen to command the Determination. She watched everything from her ship through a special communication screen. Her dark eyes were angry, but she stayed calm as she listened to the aliens insult her ship and her people. Standing next to Captain Jiwoo was Chief Engineer Bo Ram. She was an old woman who had worked for 30 years to build the ship's most important weapon system. Her wrinkled hands moved over a small computer tablet as she checked numbers and made calculations. She knew secrets about their ship that would shock these laughing aliens. The alien mockery went on for a long time. Each species took turns pointing out why the human ship was weak and useless. They said the ship's armor was too thin to stop. Their weapons. They laughed at the small crew of only 200 people when their own ships carried thousands of warriors. The aliens compared their weapons to the human ship's guns. They had plasma cannons that could melt through mountains. They had quantum torpedoes that could destroy entire moons. They had gravity weapons that could crush planets. What did the humans have? A few simple-looking guns that seemed old and outdated. A fat alien with 4 arms and yellow skin stood up to speak. His name was Commander Blocks, and his people were famous for building the biggest, most powerful warships in the galaxy. I have seen cargo ships with better weapons than this human vessel. My youngest child could design a stronger ship using scrap metal and broken parts. How did the humans even get permission to join our defense fleet with such a weak contribution? The other aliens made more laughing sounds at Commander Blocks's insults. They seemed to enjoy making humans look stupid and weak. Many of these alien species had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They thought humans were just babies who knew nothing about real space combat. What none of these aliens knew was that humans had learned important lessons from studying every major space war in galactic history. While other species focused on building bigger ships with more guns, humans had discovered something much more dangerous. Sometimes the most powerful weapon was not the biggest one, but the smartest one. Human scientists and engineers had spent years working on new ideas. They studied how atoms and molecules worked. They learned about quantum physics and the forces that held matter together. They discovered ways to use the basic laws of the universe as weapons. The aliens kept making jokes about the small human crew. They bragged about their thousands of soldiers and hundreds of fighter pilots. They did not understand that humans had built their ship to be efficient, not just big. Every person on the Determination was highly trained and knew multiple jobs. As the alien meeting continued, Captain Jiwoo listened to more insults about her ship and her people. The aliens called humans primitive and backwards. They said Earth was a weak little planet that should stick to farming and leave real warfare to the grown-up species. Chief Engineer Bo Ram just smiled quietly as she listened to the alien voices. She had dedicated her whole life to proving that human intelligence was just as valuable as alien strength. The weapon system she had designed would show these arrogant creatures what human science could really do. Lieutenant He Jin was the young communications officer on the bridge with Captain Ji Woo. He was getting angry as he listened to the aliens, making fun of their ship. His hands were clenched into fists and his face was red with frustration. "Captain, should I send them a message telling them to shut up and show some respect? These aliens think they are so much better than us, but they have never seen what our ship can really do." Captain Ji Woo put a gentle hand on the young officer's shoulder to calm him down. Her voice was steady and confident when she answered him. "No, Lieutenant He Jin, we do not need to argue with them using words. Very soon we will show them what human engineering can accomplish. Our actions will be much louder than anything we could say to them." The alien meeting finally ended after 2 hours of constant insults and mockery. The various species representatives filed out of the room still chuckling and making jokes about the pathetic human contribution to their joint defense fleet. They went back to their massive warships feeling superior and confident. None of them suspected that they had just made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated not just the human ship but human intelligence and determination. Captain Ji Woo turned to her crew with a small smile on her face. "Well, my friends, it looks like we will have a chance to show them what human creativity and science can really accomplish. All crew members prepare for combat trials. Let us give our new alien friends a demonstration they will never forget for the rest of their lives." 3 days passed after the horrible meeting where aliens made fun of the human ship. Now it was time for the big space battle practice in the Kepler system. This was a place between different alien territories where ships could fight without starting real wars. 12 huge alien warships moved into fighting positions among the floating rocks and asteroids. Their metal hulls shined in the starlight and were covered with enough weapons to destroy whole planets. Each ship was like a flying city filled with thousands of alien warriors ready for battle. The biggest ship belonged to the Draknor Empire. It was called the Worldbreaker and stretched almost 2 kilometers from front to back. The massive vessel had plasma cannons that could melt through a moon's surface. Its armor was thicker than most buildings, and its shields could stop nuclear explosions. Captain Ji Woo guided the small human ship Determination into position next to these alien giants. Her ship looked like a tiny toy floating beside enormous metal monsters. The size difference was so extreme that some aliens wondered if the human ship might get accidentally crushed just by being too close. On the bridge, Lieutenant He Jin sat at his communication station reading incoming messages from the alien ships. Most of the messages contained barely hidden insults about the human ship's size and fighting ability. The young officer's jaw muscles were tight with anger as he listened to their words. "Captain Ji Woo, these alien commanders are still making jokes about our ship. Admiral Krothak from the Hegemony just sent a message saying we should move to the back so we do not get hurt when real fighting begins. Should I send them an angry reply?" Captain Ji Woo settled into her command chair with a calm expression on her weathered face. She had commanded ships for 15 years and learned that actions always spoke louder than angry words. "No, Lieutenant, there is no need to argue with them. Very soon our actions will speak much louder than anything we could say. Just monitor their communications and let me know if anything important happens." She turned to look at Commander Dong Hyun, who was working at the tactical weapons station. He was an older man with scars on his face from previous space battles. He had fought in 3 different galactic wars and knew how dangerous space combat could be. "Commander, what is the status of our special weapon system? Is Chief Engineer Boram ready for the demonstration we have been planning?" Commander Dong Hyun's scared face showed a rare smile as he checked his instruments and computer displays. All the numbers and readings looked perfect for what they were about to attempt. "All systems are working perfectly, Captain. Chief Engineer Boram reports that the quantum resonance amplifier is operating at maximum efficiency. We are completely ready to show these aliens what happens when they underestimate human science and engineering." The battle exercise was designed to test each ship's fighting abilities against automated defense platforms. These robot fortifications were built to act like enemy bases that needed to be destroyed. Points would be given based on accuracy, efficiency, and creative tactics. The alien ships would take turns attacking the defense platforms while everyone else watched and judged their performance. Most alien species like to use overwhelming firepower to solve their problems. They believed that bigger weapons and more explosions were always better. Admiral Krothak commanded the first alien ship to begin the exercise. His massive battle cruiser was over 1 kilometer long and mounted hundreds of different weapon systems. The ship looked like it could fight an entire enemy fleet by itself. Watch and learn, humans. This is how real warriors conduct space combat operations. Weapons officer, prepare a full synchronized missile barrage. Target all defense platforms simultaneously and destroy them completely. The alien battlecruiser launched dozens of antimatter missiles that streaked through space toward the robot defense platforms. Each missile contained enough explosive power to level a large city. When they hit their targets, the explosions were so bright they lit up the entire asteroid field. 3 defense platforms were instantly vaporized and turned into expanding clouds of superheated gas and metal particles. The alien crews cheered and celebrated their commander's display of raw destructive power. They were confident that no other ship could match such an impressive demonstration. One by one, each alien ship took its turn trying to outdo the previous. Performance. Particle beam weapons cut through metal like knives through butter. Gravity weapons crushed defense platforms into tiny compressed balls. Exotic matter cannons erased their targets from existence entirely. Each alien species had their own preferred method of destruction. The insect-like Clicktar used swarms of small fighters that attacked like angry bees. The tree-like Sylvani fired seed pods that grew into explosive plants on impact. The mechanical Nexus used robots that took apart enemy ships piece by piece. When it was finally the humans' turn, all the alien crews gathered around their viewing screens. They were excited to watch what they expected would be an embarrassing failure. Many aliens were making bets on how badly the human ship would perform. Captain Jiwoo took a deep breath and looked around her small bridge at the crew she had trained for this moment. Each person knew their job perfectly and had practiced the procedure hundreds of times in secret. Chief Engineer Bo-Ram, this is your moment to make history. You have worked your entire life for this opportunity. You may fire the quantum resonance weapon when you are ready. In the ship's engineering section, Chief Engineer Bo-Ram stood before a control panel covered with button switches and glowing displays. Her wrinkled hands moved with the confidence of someone who had spent 30 years perfecting this technology. Quantum resonance field generator is online and stable. Target acquisition system has locked onto the defense platforms. All safety protocols have been followed. Initiating cascade. Protocol sequence in 3, 2, 1. What happened next would change the balance of power in the entire galaxy forever. The human weapon created something that had never been seen before in all of galactic history. Instead of launching missiles or firing energy beams, the determination created a small invisible distortion in space. It was no bigger than a basketball and barely showed up on most alien sensor systems. Chief Engineer Bo-Ram watched her instruments carefully as the quantum resonance field formed in front of their ship. Her weathered hands moved across the control panel with the skill of a master artist. Every button and switch had been positioned exactly where her fingers expected to find them. Quantum resonance field is stable and maintaining proper coherence, patterns. Target has been acquired and weapon system is locked onto the defense platform cluster. Beginning cascade protocol initiation sequence now. The strange distortion began moving slowly toward the enemy defense platforms. It traveled at what seemed like a very relaxed pace compared to the fast missiles and energy beams the aliens were used to seeing. This made the watching aliens laugh even harder at the pathetic human weapon. Ambassador Vex Tar transmitted a mocking message to all the ships in the area. His lizard-like voice was full of cruel amusement as he made fun of the human demonstration. Is that tiny thing supposed to be a weapon? My youngest hatchling could run faster than that slow-moving bubble. The humans must be joking if they think something so weak and slow could damage our defense platforms. The alien crews were practically rolling around laughing at what they thought was the most ridiculous weapon display they had ever witnessed. Some aliens were making jokes about human children playing with soap bubbles. Others suggested the humans had accidentally fired their ship's waste disposal system instead of a real weapon. But Captain Jiwoo and her crew knew exactly what they had unleashed. They had spent 3 years developing and testing this weapon, system. It was based on breakthrough discoveries made by Earth's greatest scientists who had learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that held all matter together. Lieutenant He-jin monitored the sensor readings from his communication station. His young eyes grew wide with excitement as the data began showing exactly what they had hoped to see. Captain, the resonance field is beginning to interact with the target platform's molecular structure. Quantum coherence patterns are breaking, down at the subatomic level, just like our computer models predicted they would. The aliens' laughter started to die away, as their own sensors began detecting impossible readings that made no sense according to their understanding of physics. The defense platforms were beginning to vibrate and shake as the human weapon got closer to them. This was not simple destruction caused by heat or explosive force or kinetic impact. This was something far more basic and terrifying that attacked the very foundations of how atoms and molecules stayed together to form solid matter. Commander Dong-hyun watched the tactical display screen with grim satisfaction. He had fought in many battles but had never seen a weapon that worked like this one. His scarred face showed approval as the readings confirmed their expectations. Resonance field will make contact with the first platform in exactly 10 seconds, Captain. Once it touches the target, the cascade effect will spread through any connected quantum communication systems at faster than light speed. The defense platforms were all linked together by quantum communication networks that allowed them to coordinate their defensive patterns and share targeting information. This was considered an advanced design feature that made the platforms much more effective against attacking enemy forces. What the alien engineers who designed these defense platforms never imagined was that their quantum communication links could become highways for a human weapon. The resonance field would not just destroy one platform, but would spread through the network connections to affect all linked systems simultaneously. As the resonance field made contact with the first defense platform, something incredible happened. The platform's hull did not explode or melt or get torn apart by physical force. Instead, it simply began to cease existing at the most fundamental level possible. The quantum resonance effect disrupted the atomic bonds that held the platform's metal hull together. Molecules that had been stable for millions of years suddenly found their electrons in the wrong places. Chemical bonds that should have been permanent started coming apart spontaneously. Within seconds, the cascade effect spread through the quantum communication links to all 12 defense platforms at once. Each massive fortification began experiencing the same catastrophic molecular breakdown as their atomic structure, was disrupted by the spreading resonance field. The platforms did not produce spectacular explosions or dramatic fireworks displays. They simply dissolved into clouds of free-floating subatomic particles as their matter returned to its most basic components. The destruction was so complete that not even tiny pieces of debris remained behind. Every alien crew stared at their sensor displays in complete shock and disbelief. Their instruments were showing readings that should have been impossible according to everything they knew about physics and space combat. The readings made no sense, but the evidence was right. There in front of them. In a single shot, the humans had completely destroyed all 12 defense platforms. The same targets that had required massive antimatter missiles and exotic energy weapons had been eliminated by one small, slow-moving distortion field that seemed to break the laws of nature. Science Officer Vel Nash aboard the alien flagship, Worldbreaker, checked her instruments 3 times to make sure they were working correctly. Her voice shook with fear and confusion when she reported to Admiral Krothak. "Admiral, our sensors detected no conventional energy discharge from the human weapon. There was no particle beam, no missile launch, no explosive detonation of any kind. The defense platform simply stopped existing at the quantum level. The implications of what they had just witnessed sent waves of terror through every alien ship in the exercise area. For thousands of years, galactic warfare had followed predictable patterns and rules. Bigger ships carried bigger weapons that fired more destructive projectiles at enemy targets. Battles were won by whoever could bring the most raw firepower to bear against their opponents. Defensive shields were built, thicker armor, plating was made stronger, and victory went to the side with superior technology and greater numbers. But the humans had just demonstrated a weapon that made all of those traditional advantages completely meaningless. Size did not matter. Armor thickness was irrelevant. Shield strength provided no protection. The quantum resonance field attacked matter itself at its most fundamental level. The alien crews sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what this meant for the future of galactic politics and warfare. Everything they thought they knew about space combat had just been proven wrong by a small human ship that everyone had been laughing at just minutes before. The silence that followed the human weapon demonstration lasted exactly 47 seconds. Then complete chaos broke out across the alien fleet as every species tried desperately to understand what they had just witnessed. Emergency communications flooded all the tactical networks as military advisors, scientists, and fleet commanders searched frantically for explanations. Admiral Krothak's voice crackled with barely controlled panic as he shouted orders to his tactical staff aboard the massive hegemony battleship. His usual calm military bearing had been completely shattered by the impossible weapon the humans had just used. Run complete spectrum analysis on that weapon discharge immediately. I want to know exactly how they accomplished this destruction, and I want to know if our defensive shields can provide any protection against it. Contact our best scientists and get them working on this problem right now. His enormous warship's sensor arrays worked frantically to gather any data they could find about the human weapon. But the quantum resonance field had left almost no traditional energy signatures for their instruments to analyze. It was like trying to study something that existed outside normal physics. Captain Jiwoo allowed herself a small, satisfied smile as she watched the frantic activity erupting throughout the alien fleet. Their confident arrogance had been replaced by obvious fear and confusion in just a few seconds. Chief Engineer Boram, please power down the resonance amplifier system and secure all weapon components. Make sure everything is safely stored and locked away. I think we have made our point quite clearly to our alien friends. The elderly engineer nodded with quiet satisfaction and began the careful shutdown procedures for the quantum weapon system. Her movements remained calm and professional, despite the historic moment they had just created. She had waited 30 years for this vindication of human science. On the bridge of the alien flagship, Worldbreaker Science Officer Vel Nash stared at her instruments with wide, unbelieving eyes. She ran the same tests over and over, hoping to find some logical explanation for what had happened. Admiral, our most advanced sensors detected absolutely no conventional energy discharge from the human vessel. No particle beams, no plasma bursts, no gravitational distortions, no quantum torpedo explosions. The defense platforms simply ceased to exist at the molecular level. The implications of this discovery sent shockwaves of terror through every alien military commander in the fleet. For centuries, galactic warfare had been built around predictable scientific principles. Energy weapons transferred heat to targets until they melted or vaporized. Kinetic weapons used mass and velocity to physically destroy enemy systems. But the human weapon seemed to operate on completely different principles that none of them understood. It did not overcome defenses through superior firepower or find weak points in enemy armor. Instead, it appeared to attack the basic quantum mechanical properties that held all matter together. Commander Dong Hyun monitored the alien communication channels from his position on the human bridge. His battle-scarred face remained grim as he translated the panicked conversations taking place throughout the enemy fleet. Captain, the alien commanders are desperately trying to figure out how to defend against our quantum resonance weapon. Several ships are frantically reconfiguring their shield harmonics and adjusting their armor configurations. But they do not understand the fundamental scientific principles involved. The truth was even more terrifying than the aliens realized. The quantum resonance amplifier did not work by overwhelming enemy defenses or exploiting weaknesses in their protective systems. Instead, it manipulated the basic forces that held atomic nuclei together and kept electrons in their proper orbits. Lieutenant Min Seo was the Determination's young quantum physicist who had spent months working with Chief Engineer Boram to perfect the weapons targeting algorithms. She understood better than anyone how the resonance cascade effect actually functioned. The cascade effect can propagate through any quantum-connected system, Captain. Communication networks shared power grids. Even ships that are docked together become pathways for the resonance field to spread from one target to another at faster than light speeds. As this terrifying realization dawned on the alien fleet commanders, they began to understand the true scope of their vulnerability. Their massive warships were all connected by quantum communication arrays that allowed instant communication across vast distances. These same networks that made them more effective also made them incredibly vulnerable. Energy transfer systems allowed ships to share power during combat operations. Docking connections let them combine resources and coordinate their attacks. All of these technological advantages suddenly became potential pathways for the human weapon to spread from ship to ship. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. These were military species that had conquered entire star systems through overwhelming force. They had built their civilizations around concepts of superior firepower and technological dominance. Their whole way of life was based on being stronger and more advanced than their enemies. Now they faced an enemy whose weapon made their greatest strengths completely irrelevant and turned their advantages into weaknesses. The bigger their ships were, the more systems could be affected by the cascade effect. The more advanced their networks were, the faster the weapon could spread through their fleets. General Korth of the insect-like Clicktar species was desperately trying to understand how his people could defend against this new threat. His clicking mandibles betrayed his nervousness as he spoke to his military advisors. Disconnect all quantum communication systems immediately. Shut down power transfer networks and separate our ships so they cannot share the resonance effect between vessels. We must isolate each ship as much as possible. But even as he gave these orders, General Korth realized they would cripple his fleet's combat effectiveness. Ships that could not communicate could not coordinate their attacks. Vessels without shared power systems would be much weaker in prolonged battles. The human weapon had already defeated them without firing another shot. Commander Blocks of the heavy construction species was having similar realizations about his people's massive industrial ships. These vessels were designed to work together as integrated systems with shared resources and coordinated operations. If we disconnect our ships, they will lose most of their combat effectiveness. But if we leave them connected, the human weapon could destroy our entire fleet with a single shot. How do we fight an enemy that makes our own strengths work against us? The fear spread through the alien fleet like a disease, as each species realized their particular vulnerabilities. The Draknor Empire's ships were built around centralized power systems that would be perfect conduits for cascade effects. The Nexus mechanical vessels shared processing power between units in ways that would accelerate weapon propagation. Captain Jiwoo watched this chaos with mixed emotions. She felt satisfaction that human ingenuity had been vindicated after years of alien mockery. But she also understood the responsibility that came with wielding such devastating power. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently in the space of a few minutes. Every alien species now had to reconsider their relationship with humanity and their assumptions about human capabilities. 6 months had passed since the weapon demonstration that changed galactic history forever. Captain Jiwoo now stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest and most advanced space station. She watched as construction crews from 12 different alien species worked together to build the most sophisticated defensive platform ever conceived in the known galaxy. The irony was not lost on her that many of these same aliens had dismissed human engineering as primitive and worthless just half a year earlier. Now they competed desperately for the privilege of contributing to human construction projects and learning from human scientific innovations. The HSF Determination floated nearby in a position of honor as the flagship of a growing fleet of human vessels. Each new ship incorporated quantum resonance technology along with other advanced systems developed by human scientists. The fleet represented careful balance between defensive capability and diplomatic restraint. Captain Jiwoo had learned that wielding such devastating power required wisdom and responsibility. The quantum resonance weapon could destroy entire enemy fleets, but using it carelessly could destabilize the entire galactic political system. Humanity needed to be strong enough to defend itself while avoiding unnecessary provocations. Chief Engineer Boram had been promoted to Director of Quantum Weapons Development and now oversaw the most important research program in known space. Her laboratory had become the most secure facility in the galaxy, protected not just by advanced technology, but by treaties signed by every major galactic power. The elderly woman who had once been ignored and dismissed by alien scientists now found herself consulting with the greatest minds from dozens of different species. They came to learn from her innovations and hopefully discover new applications for quantum manipulation technology. Status Report Director Jiwoo requested as she entered the main research laboratory. The facility was filled with experimental equipment that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Human and alien scientists worked side by side on projects that would have seemed impossible just months before. Boram looked up from her work with eyes that sparkled with satisfaction and pride. After 30 years of dedication, her contributions were finally receiving the recognition they deserved. Her research had not only vindicated human capabilities, but had opened entirely new fields of scientific study. We have successfully miniaturized the quantum resonance amplifier by 30%, Captain. The new generation will require significantly less power to operate and will be much more efficient in combat situations. We are also making excellent progress on defensive applications that could protect entire star systems from attack. The transformation in galactic politics had been swift and dramatic beyond anyone's expectations. Alien species that had once dominated through military superiority now actively sought partnerships with humanity. They offered technology transfers, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts in hopes of maintaining friendly relations. The Galactic Council had completely restructured itself to give humanity. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called within just 4 hours of the weapon demonstration. The same massive chamber that had echoed with mocking laughter 3 days earlier now buzzed with fearful whispers and urgent strategic discussions. Every species representative sat in stunned silence as they tried to process the implications of humanity's quantum resonance weapon. The 12 different alien species had gathered around the same holographic display where they had previously made fun of the human ship. Now that same display showed tactical analyses of the weapon demonstration. The data was terrifying, and none of them could explain how the humans had accomplished such complete destruction. Ambassador Vextar, who had been the loudest voice mocking human technology just days before now, spoke in hushed, respectful tones. His scaly green skin had lost some of its color, and his reptilian eyes showed obvious fear. Commander Taemin, we need to understand the full capabilities of this quantum weapon system. How many ships in the human fleet carry this devastating technology? What are the operational limits and restrictions on its use? Commander Taemin remained standing calmly at his usual position near the wall of the council chamber. His weathered face showed no emotion as he looked around at the assembled alien representatives. He had spent 40 years serving in humanity's military and had never seen aliens show such respect for human capabilities. The detailed specifications of our military technologies remain classified information, Ambassador Vextar. However, I can assure this council that humanity takes our defensive responsibilities very seriously. We will protect our interests and those of our allies using whatever means we determine to be necessary. The carefully chosen words carried an unmistakable threat that was not lost on anyone in the chamber. The humans were making it clear that they would use their new weapon if they felt threatened. Every alien species now had to consider whether their current policies toward humanity might provoke a devastating response. General Korth of the insect-like Clicktar clicked his mandibles nervously as he spoke. This was completely different from his earlier arrogant behavior when he had dismissed human engineering as primitive and worthless. Surely the humans understand that weapons of this magnitude upset the established balance of power throughout the galaxy. There must be treaties and limitations and agreed-upon restrictions to prevent escalation to full-scale war. Captain Jiwoo's voice joined the conversation through the secure communication link from her ship orbiting nearby. Her tone was polite, but firm as she addressed the alien concerns about balance and restrictions. Respectfully, General Korth, when my people were developing our defensive technologies, we received nothing but mockery and dismissal from this council. Now that we have proven our capabilities, you suddenly want to discuss treaties and limitations on our weapons. The irony of the situation was obvious to everyone present in the council chamber. For decades, humanity had been treated as the weakest member of galactic civilization. Their contributions had been minimized, their capabilities underestimated, and their requests for equal treatment ignored or rejected. human colonies had been assigned to the worst planetary systems, with limited resources and hostile environments. Human ships had been given the least important patrol routes and excluded from major military operations. Human representatives had been seated in the back of council meetings, and their opinions rarely requested. During territorial disputes between alien species, humans had been expected to provide support and resources while receiving little in return. When trade agreements were negotiated, human interests were considered last, and their needs frequently ignored in favor of more powerful species. Chief Engineer Boram watched the proceedings from her engineering station aboard the Determination. Her hand still rested on the quantum resonance amplifier's control systems, even though the weapon was safely powered down and secured. She had dedicated her entire adult life to reaching this moment. The weapon system represented more than just technological achievement for her. It was vindication of human intelligence and creativity in the face of constant alien prejudice. It proved that humans could compete with any species in the galaxy when given the opportunity to use their unique talents. The council chamber fell into uncomfortable silence as the alien representatives realized how fundamentally their situation had changed. Species that had ruled through military dominance for thousands of years now faced the prospect of technological obsolescence. Their massive fleets, their advanced weapon systems, their carefully maintained territorial boundaries, and their traditional military advantages meant absolutely nothing when facing an enemy that could destroy entire armadas with single shots from relatively small vessels. Commander Dong Hyun had been preparing tactical assessments for multiple different scenarios during the council session. His battle-hardened military mind was already calculating the strategic implications of humanity's new position in galactic politics. Captain, we are receiving priority communications from 7 different alien species requesting immediate bilateral defense agreements. It appears they are suddenly very interested in establishing friendship and cooperation with humanity. The messages coming in from alien governments were remarkably similar in their tone and content. Species that had previously treated humans as inferior partners were now offering generous trade deals, advanced technology transfers, and mutual security pacts. The hegemony, which had assigned humanity to patrol the least valuable star systems, was now requesting human protection for their most important industrial worlds. The Dreknor Empire wanted to discuss joint military exercises and shared defense strategies. Even the proud Kliktar, who had always insisted on their superiority in ground combat, were offering to share their advanced infantry weapons in exchange for human naval protection. The speed of these diplomatic reversals was almost as stunning as the weapon demonstration itself. Lieutenant Heijin monitored the incoming communications from his station and provided regular updates to Captain Jiwoo. The young officer could barely contain his satisfaction at seeing the aliens beg for human friendship after years of dismissive treatment. Captain, the Silvani tree people are offering to share their ecological restoration technology if we agree to protect their forest worlds from raiders. The Mechanical Nexus wants to exchange manufacturing techniques for defensive partnership agreements. Every major species in the galaxy was suddenly discovering advantages to friendship with humanity. They offered their most advanced sciences, their most valuable resources, and their most closely guarded secrets in hopes of avoiding human displeasure. The balance of power in galactic civilization had shifted completely in just a few hours. The same species that had laughed at humanity's modest contributions now competed desperately for human attention and approval. As the emergency council session continued through the night, it became clear that nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity had moved from the bottom of the galactic hierarchy to a position near the very top through the demonstration of superior scientific innovation. The age of alien dominance based purely on size and firepower was ending. The new era would belong to whoever could best understand and manipulate the fundamental forces that governed reality itself.